I had 24 hours to become a girl or lose everything. The email arrived at 8:07 a.m. At first, it looked like any other message from the company. Same logo, same formal tone, same subject line style. But the moment I opened it, my entire life stopped. Because the first line said, "Ryan Carter, you have exactly 24 hours to complete the requirement." Requirement? My heart skipped. I kept reading. And with every word, the air in my lungs disappeared. Because the requirement wasn't a project. It wasn't a presentation. It wasn't even a business challenge. It was something far worse. The email ended with a sentence that made my hands start shaking. "You must successfully present yourself as a woman for the full evaluation tomorrow, or your contract will be permanently terminated." I stared at the screen, waiting for the punchline, waiting for someone to jump out and yell, "Got you." But no one did. The office around me kept moving. Keyboards clicking, phones ringing, people talking. Meanwhile, my world had just exploded. Because there was one terrifying problem. I didn't know if I could actually do it. And yet, a small voice inside my head whispered something even more dangerous. "You've done this before." My name is Ryan Carter, 27 years old, marketing strategist, professional overthinker, and apparently the guy who now had 24 hours to become a woman. If that sounds insane, believe me, I thought so too. But to understand why this happened, you need to understand something about me. Something no one in my life knows. Not my coworkers, not my boss, and definitely not my girlfriend. Especially not Mia. Mia thinks I'm the most predictable man alive. Responsible, focused, normal. The kind of guy who plans our future 5 years ahead. The kind of guy who buys flowers on random Tuesdays just because. The kind of guy who would never keep a secret big enough to destroy everything we built together. But Mia doesn't know about the other side of my life. The side that only exists behind a locked bedroom door. The side that started as a harmless curiosity and slowly became something I couldn't ignore anymore. Because the truth is, sometimes, late at night, I become someone else. Her name is Riley. She's confident. She walks with grace. She smiles in a way Ryan never could. And when Riley looks in the mirror, she doesn't see a mistake. She sees freedom. But Riley only exists in secret. Hidden inside a part of my closet no one has ever seen. A hidden world of dresses, wigs, makeup, and heels. A world that disappears the moment morning comes. For years, that secret stayed perfectly buried. Until one night, one stupid mistake destroyed everything. It happened 2 days ago. Mia was staying at her sister's apartment for the weekend, which meant I had the place to myself. Normally, I'd use that time to relax, watch movies, order terrible takeout. But that night, something else pulled in my mind. Something I hadn't done in months. I walked to my closet, moved aside my normal clothes, and opened the hidden section behind them. Inside, everything was exactly where I left it. The black heels, the soft blonde wig, the red dress that always made my heart race a little faster. I told myself it would just be for a few minutes. Just a reminder. Just a moment. But moments turn into hours faster than you think. Especially when you're staring at someone in the mirror who feels more real than you expected. And that night, for the first time in a long time, Riley came back. The makeup took 30 minutes. The dress slid perfectly over my body. The wig settled naturally around my shoulders. And when I finally stepped back and looked at the mirror, even I was shocked. Because the reflection staring back at me didn't look like Ryan playing dress up. It looked like someone who could walk into a room and belong there. I laughed nervously, took a few pictures on my phone, just like I used to years ago. Just memories. Just something private. Or, at least, that's what I thought. Because one of those photos accidentally synced to my cloud storage. And from there, it reached somewhere I completely forgot about. Mia's tablet. The message from her came at 11:42 p.m. I was halfway through washing the makeup off when my phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. I smiled at first, until I opened the message, and saw the photo, the exact photo I had taken 30 minutes earlier. Me, in the red dress. Perfect makeup, blonde hair, looking directly at the camera. Under the picture, Mia wrote only 3 words. Explain this. Now. My stomach dropped. My heart started pounding, because the one secret I had protected for years was suddenly completely exposed. I tried typing a reply, deleted it, typed again, deleted again. Nothing felt right. Nothing sounded believable. But before I could send anything, another message arrived. And this one changed everything. Meet me tomorrow morning. Your office. 9 a.m. When I arrived the next day, Mia wasn't alone. She was sitting across from my boss, both of them looking at me with expressions I couldn't read. And then Mia said something I will never forget. Something that sounded like a joke, but wasn't. She leaned forward and said quietly, Ryan, if this is who you really are, prove it. I blinked. What? She slid a document across the table. A company contract. A new project. A ridiculous requirement written in bold letters. Then she said the words that would turn my life upside down. You have 24 hours to become a woman. If you succeed, you keep your career. If you fail, you lose everything. And the worst part? When I looked into Mia's eyes, I couldn't tell if she was testing me, punishing me, or about to destroy my entire life. So now I have one question for you. If you were given 24 hours to completely become someone else, would you try? Or would you run? Because what happened in the next 24 hours changed my life forever. And trust me, the transformation hadn't even started yet. For a moment, I thought Mia was joking. I stared at the document on the table, waiting for someone to laugh. No one did. The office conference room suddenly felt too small, too quiet. My boss, Mr. Keller, folded his hands calmly on the table like he was waiting for my reaction. Mia didn't smile. She didn't look angry either. She just watched me, and that somehow made everything worse. I cleared my throat. Okay, what exactly is this? Mr. Keller slid the paper closer to me. An opportunity, he said. Opportunity? My eyes scanned the document again. At the top it said, Special Project, Identity Adaptation Test. Below, it was a list of requirements. My stomach twisted as I read them. A present as a woman for 24 hours, attend the company's new marketing trial event, interact with clients under a female identity, remain convincing and undiscovered. At the bottom was the final line. Failure results in termination of contract. My voice came out shaky. You can't be serious. Mr. Keller leaned back. Oh, I'm very serious. Then Mia finally spoke. Her voice was calm, but there was something sharp hidden underneath it. You said the photo was just curiosity, she said quietly. I looked at her. Eyes Mia. She raised a hand to stop me. So prove it. My chest tightened. What does that mean? She leaned forward. It means if this is just some harmless thing you do, then it shouldn't be hard to do it for one day. My mind raced. This is insane. Mr. Keller interrupted. Actually, Ryan, it's quite relevant to our next campaign. I looked at him, confused. What campaign? He tapped the folder. Our company is launching a new product line aimed primarily at female consumers. Okay, that still didn't explain why my life suddenly depended on this. He continued. We want to test something unusual. Empathy marketing. Mia finished the sentence. I looked between them. What does that mean? Mr. Keller smiled. It means understanding the customer by becoming the customer. The room felt like it tilted slightly. You want me to pretend to be a woman for marketing research? Not pretend, Mia corrected. Live it. My brain couldn't process what I was hearing. This is ridiculous, I said. You can't threaten my job over this. Mr. Keller's smile faded slightly. Actually, your contract allows us to terminate you for failing to complete experimental assignments. He pointed to a paragraph in the contract. I had signed that thing 2 years ago without reading half of it. Now it was about to destroy me. I turned to Mia. Why are you doing this? For the first time, her confident expression cracked slightly. Because you lied to me, Ryan. The words hit harder than I expected. I didn't lie. You hid a whole life from me. Silence filled the room. And she wasn't wrong. But this felt like punishment. You're asking me to humiliate myself. Her eyes softened just a little. No, she said. I'm asking you to be honest. Mr. Keller checked his watch. You have until tomorrow morning, he said. 9 a.m. The client evaluation event. I laughed nervously. You expect me to learn how to become a woman in less than a day? Mia tilted her head. But you already know how. My stomach dropped. Because she was right. She had seen the photo. She knew I wasn't completely clueless. Still, there was a massive difference between dressing up in secret and walking into the real world like that. Mr. Keller stood up. So, Ryan.
His tone was firm now.
Do you accept the challenge? I looked at Mia. Then at the contract. Then at the door. If I walked out right now, I'd lose my job. And probably Mia too. But if I stayed, I'd have to do something I had never done before. Expose the secret version of myself to the world. My hands slowly closed around the pen. I'll do it. The moment I said those words, reality crashed down on me. Because now the clock had started. 23 hours and 14 minutes left. When I got back to my apartment, the silence felt heavy. I tossed my keys onto the table and ran my hands through my hair. What did I just agree to? The challenge suddenly felt impossible. Becoming Riley in my bedroom was one thing. But convincing strangers? Walking outside? Talking to people? That was a completely different level. My heart pounded. Then I remembered something. If I was going to do this, I needed Riley. I walked to my bedroom. My closet stood in front of me like it was waiting. Slowly, I pushed the door open. Rows of normal clothes stared back at me.
Shirts.
Jackets.
Jeans.
But behind them, hidden at the back, was the secret section. My hand hesitated before pulling the clothes aside. And there it was. The small world I had built over the years. Heels lined neatly at the bottom. 3 dresses hanging carefully. A makeup box. The blonde wig resting on a stand. Seeing it suddenly made my chest tighten. Because this time, it wasn't just a secret anymore. This time it was my only chance to survive. I picked up the red dress. The same one from the photo Mia had seen. My fingers brushed the soft fabric. Guess it's your time again, I whispered. 2 hours later, the transformation had begun. Makeup brushes covered my desk. Foundation, concealer, lipstick. My hands trembled as I worked, not because I didn't know how, but because this time felt different, more real, more dangerous. The wig slipped over my head. The dress hugged my waist. The heels clicked softly against the floor. And slowly, Ryan started disappearing. I turned toward the mirror. And Riley stared back at me. But instead of excitement, a wave of fear washed over me. Because tomorrow, Riley wouldn't stay inside this room. Tomorrow, she would walk into the world. And everyone would be watching. But the real problem? I still had no idea how convincing I actually was. And I was about to find out. Because just as I was staring at my reflection, my phone buzzed. One message. From Mia. I opened it slowly. And my heart skipped. Because she had written only one sentence. Good luck tomorrow, Ryan. Then another message appeared. And this one made my blood run cold. Because I'll be there watching. And suddenly the challenge felt even more terrifying. Because if I failed, I wouldn't just lose my job. I would lose Mia forever. If you were in Ryan's place right now, would you continue the transformation? Or would you give up before it's too late? Because the next part is where things become much more dangerous. Ryan will attempt his first time leaving the house as Riley, and someone unexpected is about to recognize him. For almost 10 minutes, I just stood there staring at the mirror. The apartment was silent except for the faint ticking of the clock on the wall.
Tick, tick, tick.
Every second felt louder than the last, because each one reminded me of the truth. The countdown had already started. 21 hours left. 21 hours to become someone I had only ever been in secret. I slowly turned my head, studying the reflection in front of me. The red dress hugged my body perfectly. The soft blonde wig framed my face in loose waves. The makeup surprisingly looked good. Too good. If someone walked into the room right now, they might actually believe I was a woman. But there was still a problem. A massive one. The real world. Inside my apartment, Riley was safe. No judgment. No questions. No strangers staring. But outside? Outside was unpredictable. Outside was where people could recognize me. My coworkers. My neighbors.
Friends.
And worst of all, someone who might expose me before I even reached the event tomorrow. My stomach twisted, because no matter how convincing I looked, there was only one way to find out if Riley could survive outside. I had to leave the apartment. I paced around the living room in my heels.
Click, click, click.
The sound echoed against the wooden floor. I was still getting used to walking in them again. Years ago, when I first experimented with heels, I could barely take 2 steps without stumbling. Now it felt strangely natural. Still terrifying, but natural. I stopped near the front door. My hand hovered over the handle. Okay, I whispered to myself. You can do this. But the moment I imagined stepping outside, my heart started racing again. What if someone from my building saw me? What if they recognized my voice? What if someone took a photo? One mistake could ruin everything. I suddenly remembered something Mia said earlier. If you fail, you lose everything. The words echoed in my mind. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and opened the door. The hallway outside my apartment looked exactly the same as always. But tonight, it felt completely different. The soft carpet muffled the sound of my heels as I stepped out. Every movement felt exaggerated. Every sound felt louder. I quickly pulled the door shut behind me. For a moment, I just stood there, waiting, listening. Nothing. No footsteps. No voices. Good. I slowly started walking toward the elevator. Each step felt like walking on a tightrope. My posture straightened automatically. My steps became smaller, more careful. Somehow, Riley knew how to move, even when I didn't. Then the elevator dinged. The door slid open, and suddenly I wasn't alone. Inside the elevator stood Mrs. Henderson, my downstairs neighbor, 70 years old, curious about absolutely everything. Her eyes immediately landed on me, and my entire body froze. This was it, my first real test. If she recognized me, the entire challenge might collapse before it even began. She smiled warmly.
Oh.
Hello there, dear. I forced a small smile. Hi. My voice came out softer than usual, almost naturally. She tilted her head slightly. I haven't seen you in the building before. Of course she hadn't, because technically, Riley had never existed outside my apartment. I'm visiting a friend, I said carefully. Mrs. Henderson nodded. Oh, how nice. Which apartment? My brain scrambled. If I gave the wrong answer, she might question it later. 4B. That was my apartment, which technically wasn't a lie. She smiled again. Well, welcome. Always nice to see new faces. The elevator doors closed. My heart was pounding so loudly, I was sure she could hear it. 3 floors passed in complete silence. Then the elevator stopped. The doors opened to the lobby. Mrs. Henderson stepped out first. I followed. Then she turned back suddenly.
Oh.
I forgot to ask your name, dear. My stomach flipped. For a split second, I almost said Ryan, but the word caught in my throat. Instead, another name slipped out. The only name that made sense. Riley. The moment I said it, something strange happened. Mrs. Henderson smiled. Well, Riley, it was lovely meeting you. Then she walked out the front door. And just like that, my first test was over. I stood there in the empty lobby, completely stunned. She hadn't recognized me. Not even a little. Not my voice. Not my face. Nothing. A strange feeling spread through my chest. Relief. But also something else. Confidence. Maybe, just maybe, this could actually work. I pushed open the building's main door. Cool night air brushed against my skin. For the first time ever, Riley stepped onto the street.
Cars passed by.
People walked along the sidewalk. No one looked twice. No one stopped. No one stared. To them, I was just another woman walking through the city. And that realization hit me harder than I expected. Because for years, I had been terrified of this moment, and yet here it was, happening. I walked slowly down the sidewalk, trying to stay calm, trying to act natural. Then my phone buzzed. I pulled it out of my purse. Another message from Mia. I opened it. My stomach dropped immediately, because attached to the message was a photo of me, standing in the lobby, wearing the red dress. My heart stopped. I looked around quickly.
How did she get that?
Then the message appeared below the photo. Good start. My chest tightened. Another message followed. But the real test begins tomorrow. Then the final message appeared, and it made my entire body go cold. Because Mia wrote something I never expected. Something that made the challenge 10 times harder. Tomorrow, you won't just be a woman. You'll be my assistant. And the clients will be watching you very closely. I stared at the message, my heart racing again. Because now I understood something terrifying. Tomorrow wasn't just a test. It was a performance. And if Riley slipped up even once, everything would fall apart. But the real nightmare? I still had 20 hours left before the event. And I had no idea what Mia had planned next. If you were in Ryan's situation right now, would you continue the challenge? Or would you stop before the truth gets exposed? Because in the next part, Ryan discovers Mia has set up an even more dangerous test tonight. One that will force Riley to interact with strangers face to face. And someone from Ryan's real life is about to walk into the same place. The moment I finished reading Mia's message, I stopped walking. People moved around me on the sidewalk, cars passed, city lights flickered across the street, but suddenly everything felt distant. Because one thought kept echoing in my head. She's watching me. I turned slowly, scanning the street behind me. Was Mia somewhere nearby, watching from a car? A cafe window? A dark corner across the road? My heart started pounding again. The photo she sent wasn't random. It was taken from the building's lobby security camera, which meant Mia had access. Which meant this entire challenge wasn't just some emotional test between us anymore. It was planned.
Carefully.
Deliberately. And I had walked right into it. I looked back down at my phone. Another message appeared. Mia, you're doing better than I expected. My fingers tightened around the phone. I typed back quickly. Why are you doing this? 3 dots appeared instantly, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, her reply came. Mia, because you've been hiding a part of yourself for years. Another message followed immediately. Tonight we see if that part of you can survive the real world. My stomach twisted. Then the final message arrived. A location pin. And 2 words underneath it. Be there. I opened the map.
It was a small bar downtown.
Not a quiet one either. A busy place. Loud music.
Crowds.
Strangers. My heart dropped. She wanted me to go there? As Riley? The thought alone made my chest tighten. But the timer in my head reminded me of the truth. 19 hours left. If I refused now, the entire challenge would collapse.
My job.
My relationship. Everything. I swallowed hard, then started walking. 20 minutes later, I stood across the street from the bar. The neon sign above the entrance glowed bright pink against the dark sky. Music thumped from inside. People laughed as they entered and left. Groups of friends. Couples. Strangers. Normal people living normal lives. Meanwhile, I stood frozen on the sidewalk. A secret I had hidden for years now wrapped around my body like armor. The red dress suddenly felt much tighter. My heels suddenly felt much taller. I checked my reflection in the window of a parked car. Riley stared back at me. Still convincing. Still calm. But inside, Ryan was panicking. Because this wasn't like walking through my building lobby. This was a place full of people who would talk to me. Look at me. Judge me. And if even one person noticed something strange, everything could fall apart. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Mia. What are you waiting for? I typed back quickly. This wasn't part of the deal. Her reply came immediately. Neither was lying to me. That one hit hard. Then she added, relax. I'm already inside. My eyes widened. Inside? My heart started racing even faster. If Mia was in there, she would see everything. Every step, every mistake, every hesitation. And suddenly the challenge felt even more terrifying. But something inside me pushed forward. Maybe pride, maybe stubbornness, or maybe Riley herself. I straightened my posture, adjusted the small purse on my shoulder, and crossed the street. The moment I opened the bar door, warm air and loud music rushed over me. Lights flashed across the crowded room. Voices blended into a constant roar of conversation. For a split second, I almost turned around and left. But then I remembered the message. I'm already inside, which meant Mia could be watching me right now. So I stepped forward and walked into the crowd. Something strange happened as I moved through the bar. No one stared. No one questioned me. A few people glanced my way, but only for a second. To them, I was just another woman entering the bar. The realization felt surreal. For years, I had imagined this moment as a disaster.
People laughing, pointing,
Calling me out. But none of that happened. Instead, I blended in. My heels clicked softly on the wooden floor as I approached the bar counter. A bartender noticed me and smiled. "What can I get you?" My throat suddenly felt dry. This was my first real conversation as Riley. I forced myself to stay calm. A soda, please." The bartender nodded and grabbed a glass. Coming right up. My hands trembled slightly as I waited. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message from Mia. I opened it and felt my stomach drop instantly because she had written only 4 words. Turn around slowly. My heart skipped. I hesitated, then slowly turned and froze because sitting at a table behind me, watching me with an unreadable expression, was Mia. She looked stunning tonight. Black dress, long dark hair falling over her shoulders. Elegant as always. But her eyes were different.
sharp,
Observant. Like she was studying every movement I made. And the worst part? She didn't look surprised at all. She looked impressed. Mia raised her glass slightly, then motioned for me to come over. My legs suddenly felt weak. But I walked toward her anyway. Every step felt heavier than the last. When I reached the table, she leaned back in her chair. Her eyes scanned me slowly from head to toe. The silence stretched for a few seconds. Then finally she spoke. And her voice carried a strange mix of amusement and curiosity. "Well," she smiled slightly. "Hello, Riley." Hearing my secret name from her lips sent a chill down my spine. I swallowed hard. Hi. She gestured to the empty chair across from her. "Sit." I did, my heart still racing. For a moment she just studied my face. The makeup, the wig,
the dress.
everything. Then she leaned forward slightly and whispered something that made my entire body tense. "You're more convincing than I expected." Then she sat back and crossed her arms. "But tonight isn't over yet."
My stomach twisted again.
"What do you mean?" She nodded toward the crowded bar behind me. "You're going to stay here for 1 hour." 1 hour? She nodded calmly. "Talk to people." My eyes widened. "You're serious?" Her smile returned. "Oh, very serious." Then she delivered the sentence that made my blood run cold. "And someone from your office just walked in." My heart stopped. I turned quickly toward the entrance. And the moment I saw who it was, my entire body froze. Because standing near the door, looking around the bar, was Mark, my coworker, one of the most observant people in the office. And if he recognized me tonight, the entire challenge would collapse before morning. What would you do in this situation? Stay and risk being exposed? Or escape before Mark notices you? Because in the next part, Ryan will be forced into a conversation that could expose Riley instantly. And one small mistake might reveal everything. The moment I saw Mark walk into the bar, my heart nearly stopped. Of all the people in the world who could show up tonight, it had to be him. Mark wasn't just another coworker. He sat 3 desks away from me at the office. He noticed everything. Small mistakes in presentations, typos in reports, even when someone changed their hairstyle. If anyone could recognize me through makeup, a wig, and a dress, it was him. I quickly turned my head back toward Mia. "Mark is here," I whispered. Mia didn't even look surprised. Instead, she calmly took a sip from her drink. I know. My eyes widened. You knew. She nodded. Yes. My stomach twisted. You invited him here? She leaned back in her chair. Consider it part of the test. My voice dropped lower. You're trying to get me exposed. Her eyes met mine. No, she said softly. I'm trying to see if Riley can survive the real world. Before I could argue, Mark started walking deeper into the bar. My panic instantly returned. He's coming this way. Mia glanced over my shoulder. Sure enough, Mark was scanning the room for a table. And he was getting closer. Much closer. Relax, Mia whispered. Act natural. Act natural? My entire body felt like it was made of glass. But somehow I forced myself to stay seated. My hands rested on the table. My legs crossed carefully, just like I'd practiced. Mark finally reached the table next to ours. Then he looked at Mia. Recognition flashed across his face. Hey, Mia? My stomach dropped again. Of course he knew her. She had visited the office before. Mia smiled casually. Mark. What a surprise. He walked over to our table. Well, this is random, he laughed. I didn't expect to see someone from work here tonight. Then his eyes moved to me, and everything inside me froze. Because now Mark was looking directly at Riley, studying my face.
Trying to place me.
My brain screamed. Don't panic. Don't panic. Mia spoke smoothly. Oh, Mark, this is my friend Riley. My heart skipped. Friend? Mark smiled politely. Nice to meet you. He extended his hand. For a moment, I hesitated. If he touched my hand, would he notice something? But refusing would look suspicious. So I slowly reached out. Our hands shook. Nice to meet you too, I said softly. My voice felt different. Lighter. More careful. Mark nodded, but his eyes stayed on my face a little too long. And that's when the real fear started. Because he was thinking. Trying to recognize something. Something familiar. I quickly grabbed my drink and took a sip to avoid eye contact. But Mark wasn't done. So, Riley, he said casually. How do you know Mia? Another trap. If I answered wrong, Mia might notice. If I hesitated, Mark might suspect something. Mia spoke first. We met through a friend. Simple. Believable. Mark nodded slowly. Then suddenly he frowned. And my heart stopped again. Because he leaned closer, studying my face carefully. You know, this might sound weird. My chest tightened. But you look kind of familiar. My mind exploded with panic. This was it. The moment everything collapsed. I forced a nervous laugh. Really? I don't think we've met before. Mark scratched his head. Yeah, maybe I'm imagining things. But he still looked uncertain. Then he said something that nearly destroyed me. You kind of remind me of someone from work. My fingers tightened around the glass. My heart was pounding so loudly, I could barely hear the music anymore. Mia remained perfectly calm. So, who does she remind you of? She asked casually. Mark shrugged. Hard to explain. Then he laughed. Actually, it's ridiculous. Someone in our department. My stomach dropped.
He was talking about me.
Mark waved his hand dismissively. Never mind. It's just the eyes or something. I finally exhaled slowly. The tension eased just a little. But the danger wasn't over yet. Because Mark suddenly pulled out his phone. Speaking of work, he said. You guys heard about tomorrow's client event? My heart skipped again. Of course. That was the final test. Mia nodded. Yes, I heard. Mark groaned. Apparently some weird experiment is happening. My throat tightened. Weird experiment? I asked carefully. Mark nodded.
Yeah.
Keller told us there's going to be some special presentation tomorrow. He leaned closer to Mia. And apparently someone from our department is involved. Mia's lips curved slightly. Oh, really? Mark nodded.
Yeah.
But no one knows who. My pulse raced. Because if he found out tonight, everything would explode before morning. Then Mark stood up. Well, it was nice meeting you both. He smiled at me again. Nice meeting you, Riley. My voice almost shook. You too. He walked back toward the bar. And the moment he disappeared into the crowd, I collapsed slightly into my chair. My entire body felt weak. I almost died, I whispered. Mia laughed softly. But you didn't. I looked at her. What kind of test is this? Her expression softened. The kind that shows who you really are. I stared at her, confused. Then she leaned forward and said something that changed everything. Ryan, tonight you didn't hide. You didn't run. You became Riley in front of real people. I blinked. So, what does that mean? She smiled slightly. It means you might actually survive tomorrow. My heart raced again. Tomorrow. The final test. The event. The clients. My entire career, hanging by a thread. And now there were only a few hours left. Mia stood up and grabbed her purse. Go home, she said. Rest. I looked up at her. What happens if I fail tomorrow? She looked down at me for a long moment. Then she answered quietly. You lose everything. And with that, she walked out of the bar, leaving me sitting there alone, still dressed as Riley, still shaking, still wondering if tomorrow would destroy my entire life. But the real shock, the real moment that would change everything forever, hadn't even happened yet. Because tomorrow, someone at the event was going to recognize something about Riley. Something even Mark didn't notice. And when that moment came, there would be no way to hide anymore. Do you think Ryan will survive the final test tomorrow? Or will Riley's secret be exposed in front of everyone? Comment what you think will happen. And get ready. The next morning arrived much faster than I expected. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same images repeating in my mind. Mark staring at my face, Mia watching every movement, the crowded bar, and the terrifying realization that tonight had only been practice. The real test was still waiting. When my alarm rang at 7 a.m., I was already awake. The sunlight slipping through my apartment window made everything feel strangely normal, like yesterday had been a dream. But the red dress hanging on the closet door reminded me it wasn't.
Today was the day.
The final evaluation. The moment that would decide everything. I checked my phone. One message from Mia had arrived at 6:30 a.m. 9 a.m. Don't be late. No smiley faces. No encouragement. Just the reminder. 3 words that felt like a countdown. By 8:15 a.m., I was standing in front of my bedroom mirror again. But this time the transformation felt different. Last night, Riley had been an experiment. A test. Today, Riley was my survival. The makeup brushes moved slowly across my face. Foundation.
Blush.
Eyeliner. My hands were steadier than the night before. Almost like my body had accepted something my mind was still struggling with. When I slipped into the dress again, the fabric felt familiar. Comforting even. Then came the heels.
Click. Click. Click.
The sound echoed across the apartment floor. I placed the blonde wig carefully on my head and adjusted it until it sat perfectly. Finally, I stepped back. The mirror reflected someone I almost didn't recognize anymore. Not Ryan pretending. Not someone hiding. Just Riley. For the first time, I didn't feel afraid of the reflection. I felt ready. The company building looked intimidating as always. Tall glass windows. Employees rushing through the entrance. Normal workday energy. But today felt anything but normal. Because Riley was the one walking through the front doors. Not Ryan. I kept my head high and stepped into the lobby. My heart pounded. Would security question me? Would someone stop me? But no one did. The receptionist smiled politely. Good morning. Morning, I replied softly. And just like that, Riley walked into Ryan's workplace. The conference hall upstairs was already filled with people. Clients. Executives. Marketing staff. My eyes quickly spotted Mr. Keller near the stage. Next to him,
Mia.
She was dressed in a professional black suit today.
Calm.
Confident. In control. The moment she saw me walk in, her eyes widened slightly. Not with shock, but with recognition. She walked toward me slowly, stopping just a few feet away. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then she smiled softly. Well, her eyes scanned my appearance carefully. You made it. My voice was quiet but steady. I said I would. Mr. Keller approached us, adjusting his tie. And this must be Riley. He studied me with clear curiosity. Then he nodded approvingly. Impressive. I felt my face heat, slightly. Thank you. Keller clapped his hands once. All right, everyone, let's begin. The presentation started. And for the next 2 hours, Riley worked, talking to clients, explaining marketing strategies, answering questions, smiling, listening. Every conversation felt like walking on a tightrope. But something strange kept happening. The clients responded positively. They listened. They trusted me. Some even complimented my ideas. Halfway through the event, one of the biggest investors approached. A woman named Claire Bennett. She had a reputation for being brutally honest. She studied me carefully after I finished explaining a campaign concept. Then she said something unexpected. You understand the female audience better than most marketers. My heart skipped. Thank you. She tilted her head slightly. How long have you been working in this field? For a second, I almost answered as Ryan. But then I remembered the role. Several years. She nodded thoughtfully. Well, Riley, you're very good at what you do. The compliment felt surreal. Because in that moment,
No one saw Ryan.
they saw Riley. The event ended around 11:30 a.m. Applause filled the room as Keller finished the presentation. Clients began leaving. Employees gathered their notes. And slowly the room emptied. Until only 3 people remained.
Me, Mia.
Mr. Keller. Keller looked at his watch. Well, the 24 hours are almost up. My heart started racing again. Mia crossed her arms. So, Keller, what do you think? He studied me quietly. Then he smiled. Ryan Carter. My stomach tightened. You just completed the most successful experimental campaign we've ever tested. I blinked. Wait, what? He laughed. You didn't just pass the test. You impressed the clients. My chest filled with relief. So, I keep my job.
Not only that, Keller said.
You're leading the new marketing division. I stared at him in disbelief. Then he walked toward the door. Congratulations. And just like that, he left. Silence filled the room. Only Mia and I remained. I looked at her slowly. So, this was all a marketing experiment. She shook her head. Not entirely. I frowned. Then what was it? She stepped closer. Her voice softer now. It was also about honesty. I looked down briefly. I never meant to hide Riley from you. She smiled gently. I know. Then why push me like this? Her answer came quietly. Because I wanted to see if you would accept that part of yourself. I looked at her, confused. And she shrugged slightly. You did. For the first time since yesterday, the tension between us disappeared. Then Mia said something that completely caught me off guard. You know, she glanced at my outfit. You actually make a pretty convincing woman. I laughed nervously. Is that a compliment? She smiled. It is. Then she added one final sentence. Just promise me one thing. What? Her smile widened slightly. Next time don't wait 24 hours to show me the real you. And just like that, the secret that almost destroyed my life ended up changing it forever. What would you have done if you only had 24 hours to become someone else? Would you have taken the challenge? Or walked away from everything? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more suspenseful transformation stories, because the next one might be even more shocking.